Hey, Prolific community. Welcome back to the Prolific Hub podcast, a digital archive of all things life and the pursuit of creative entrepreneurship. I'm your host, Aaliyah Cheyenne. This podcast celebrates all of the change makers, way makers, and world builders who are charting their own paths and inspiring others to do the same. We highlight creatives, solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, and also discuss everyday life topics. If you've already rated and written a review for the podcast, thank you. If you haven't had a chance to just yet, it's never too late. Reviews help tremendously in the podcasting world, so I appreciate you taking the time to leave one. The best way to discover new podcasts is by word of mouth, so keep sharing the Prolific Hub podcast with your tribe. Be sure to follow the show on your favorite podcast platform and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you'd like to show even more support, text the show, send in a voice note, or consider a monthly subscription. See the show notes below for more details. Thank you so much for tuning in. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the episode. Welcome back to the Prolific Hub podcast. I'm so excited today to be joined by my dear friend, Aseanté Renee. If you've been listening for a while, you know I have mentioned her a few times on this show that I've been wanting to get her on, and I'm so honored that I'm able to have this conversation with her and share it on the podcast. And I hope that you will find it as valuable and as beautiful as I do. Aseanté is a dear friend, she's a mentor, and she's actually a former boss at an organization that we used to work at. And I'm just so grateful to have her in my life. So without further ado, let's jump into the episode. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Prolific Hub podcast. I'm your host, Aaliyah Cheyenne, and I'm so excited today to be joined by Aseanté Renee. Hi, Aseanté.
Hi, Aaliyah.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay, so for anyone who's been listening to the show for a while, you know, I keep talking about this woman who is a former boss of mine, a mentor, and a friend who I have wanted on the show for a long time, and she's finally here. So I'm so excited. Yes. So Aseanté, as I mentioned, is a former boss of mine. We worked at an organization that will not be named, but she brought me on board there. And it was just such an honor to work under her leadership and be a part of her team. She has remained an incredible mentor to me. She's the one who made me feel like I could even do the consulting thing a couple of years ago and help me with one of my first clients ever. And I had the honor of supporting her with launching some of her work and doing some comms to support her in social media. And I'm just so honored to have you here today. So yeah, I'm going to pause. No, thank you. Okay, before I get too mushy, Aseanté, I would love for you to introduce yourself. I always ask guests to introduce themselves, how they would love to be seen and known in the world today. So I would love for you to share that.
That's such a good question. It's like, how would I love to be seen today? I would love to be seen today as do not disturb.
Oh, I mean, that's me kind of every day. So
no, thank you. Wow. So yeah, I'm Aseanté Renee. I am the founder and chief wellness officer of the Axon Group. I'm also the founder and ED of the Susu House, and I've started the Retiring Superwoman campaign. And I think I want to be. I don't even think I want to be known as a protector of Black women, as a healer, as a supporter, as an advocate, as a cheerleader, as the homegirl, girlfriend support. I just really love us. I really love us. And I want to be known as someone who helps us heal, helps us elevate, helps us check out, helps us be soft, helps us be powerful, helps us be mediocre if we choose to, helps us have agency and determine our own path and our own journey. So yeah, that's what I want to be known for.
Yes, and that you are, because so many of those things you've done for me. So I, you know, we're doing our podcast, but this is also friend to friend. I treasure you a lot. So thank you.
It's going to be this whole podcast.
I know, right?
Have an issue with Black women loving each other, then you shouldn't be on the spot. You should be listening to this podcast.
Listen, that part. Yeah. Okay, so let's get into all the good stuff. So you mentioned multiple things: the Axon groups, the Susu House, retiring Superwoman campaign. So we're going to talk about all of those as their own things. But first, can you tell us a little bit more about the Axon group? Like, what is the Axon group for folks who may not be aware of it? And then we'll talk a little bit more about Susu House.
Yeah, so I am a licensed therapist. And I pivoted into doing executive coaching and performance coaching specifically with melanated women, and I'm even more specific with Black women executives, because we are often the ones that are called in to fix issues that we didn't create, to stand at the edge of the glass cliff, which creates burnout, which creates exhaustion, and we are called into change the world with the resources of the magic school bus knapsack. Like, you get a pencil, an eraser, and a peanut butter sandwich, go fix my organization. You need more resources, here's some duct tape. Why couldn't you make it work? And so I really just wanted to start working consistently with us around that. And the Axon Group is a consulting performance coaching firm that really focuses on us with an element that's woven through, that's just connected to our healing, because I think that's at the heart of everything that we do. And so I really do help people create lives they don't have to escape, that they don't have to take 2 to 4 weeks off to go recover from, that they don't have to figure out a strategy because they're already burned out. It's not so much about a dream career or a dream relationship. It's about having a dream life that you actually deserve. So you create lives where you don't have to escape them. You actually enjoy them. The balance looks like ebbs and flows. And most importantly, I create spaces where you get to be comfortable to be whatever version of yourself shows up that day.
Yeah. I love that. But the thing that's coming up for me and you saying all of that is like, and how are you doing that for yourself? Like,
therapists make the worst patients, and therapists make the worst clients. Actually, all of the stuff that I have created, all the different platforms, come from a place of, I wasn't doing this for myself, or I was burned out myself, or I am my own recovering perfectionist. And so what I often tell people is, I don't come at this work as an expert. I come at this work as someone who's living it with you. And so I'm walking alongside you in your journey. In some areas I have already experienced, so I have knowledge. In some areas, I believe you came to me for us to learn from each other.
Yeah.
I don't think anything I've been through has been wasted, because it all gets to be an opportunity to be in service of someone else at some point. And so I am helping myself as I'm, both have my own resources to pour into me, and as I'm helping other women, because you get to see yourself in other people. And, there's moments where you're giving advice or sharing stuff. You're like, oh, that one was for me too. Hold on, I'm going to go write that. When done? So it is it is a form of accountability for me. Like, part of having these platforms and having these companies and having these nonprofits are also accountability points for me. I'm like, how can I talk about this, and want this and need this for other women, and I'm not doing it for myself? And in what areas am I not doing it for myself? A great example is an event we hosted for, I think the launch event we did for Susu House. And it was about, women resting and like our healing. We brought in Octavia Rahim at one point. And I'm like, how can I be talking to people about how they should heal and how they should rest and how they get to pause, and I'm stressing out about putting the event on, or I'm stressing my team out putting the event on? Like, that's counterproductive. We're not gonna, oftentimes with a lot of nonprofits and just a lot of spaces, period, we dismantle the thing outside of our office that we're ultimately recreating inside of our office. And I never will. And so these platforms are those checks and balances for me, where it's like, okay, you offer this to other people, where are you doing it for you? And so it forces it to stay present for me, because I got the memory of Dory. If something's not in front of me, be like, oh, was I supposed to? Right. I was supposed to be breathing. My bad. My bad.
My goodness.
That is how I
Mhm.
do it for myself. It's often the accountability of the
Yeah.
that I'm working in, or the people that I get to work with.
Yeah, I think that's such a beautiful answer. So, on a previous episode, we had a friend of yours on the show, Jen Roberts.
I love it.
Yes. Yeah, Jen. The founder of Color Girls Liberation Lab. And she said a quote on that episode where you actually reminded her, like, hey, this work that you're doing is also for you. So I think it's very full circle that you're saying, like, the work that you're doing with the Axon Group with Susu House with Retiring Superwoman is also for you. It's an accountability practice. It's a way for you to see yourselves in the women that you're supporting. And it's a way for you to remind yourself, like, hey, like, I need to be living these principles too. So I think that's beautiful.
Thank
you. Yeah. On that note, you brought up Susu House in that answer. So can you tell all the peoples, what is the Susu House?
Susu House. So Susu House was also birthed out of, most of these things get birthed out of a frustration. It's like, why don't we have this thing? Okay, well, fine. I'm gonna just create something so I don't have to keep asking people and getting told no. So Susu House is a nonprofit that's focused on healing equity, specifically as it relates to practitioners and those in the community who may not have the financial means to access different healing modalities. We often talk about equity as it relates to, like, criminal justice reform, social justice reform, education, reproductive rights. And I think all of those things are important. And, because I don't like to say but, and if we get all these things that we're saying that we want and we are in a more healed space and we are more healed versions of ourselves, we're just going to continue to recreate bad patterns that we have learned. It's going to put new wine in old wineskin type of thing. So Susu House was created to really just work on healing equity, because I think that is the cornerstone of what actual change is going to look like in our society.
Yeah.
And part of it was for people who may not have the financial means, because unfortunately healing equity is a bit of a privilege. Like, it's a privilege to be able to take a break or take time off if you're burnt out, or to even think about the existential things around, like, what do I actually need? Who am I? Like, if I'm just trying to pay bills, I'm trying to keep the lights on, I'm trying to keep a roof over my head, you know what I don't have time for? To go see how a sound bath makes me feel.
Yeah.
Because I also believe, therapy is not the only, like, talk therapy is not the only form or the only healing modality that resonates with people. But if you're trying to, just live day to day, you don't have time or access or the privilege to pause and even think through those things. And I wanted to make that accessible to us, especially from an Indigenous perspective, because most of these healing modalities come from us anyway. And they were taken from us and now sold back to us. And so I just wanted to bring what's already innate in us in some kind of way. And so I wanted to offer healing events for free for people to try out what may work for them, or what, for them to get curious about different ways that they can access resources that will just help them in whatever trauma they're working through, be it talk therapy, human design, astrology, sound bath work, Reiki work, energy work, chakra work, herbal work, whatever that means for you, and connected to whatever that means for you and your religious beliefs. I didn't want there to be a financial barrier to that. Finances shouldn't stop someone from being able to heal through trauma. Secondly, I wanted to make it equitable for practitioners, because a lot of practitioners that look like me go into this work to work with people that look like us. And we also have to be able to pay our bills. And so it's a frustration around, I want to help my people, but my people can't afford my rates. So how do I, have a sustainable life for myself and help my folks? And so coming in and making sure with the Suso House, when we do events, we pay practitioners their full rate. Sometimes you pay them more than the rate that they're offering. You'd be like, no, actually, from an equitable perspective, we never pay a practitioner less than a particular amount. And so it always is that or above. And so giving them a chance to actually get introduced to more people, get paid their full rate for what they're doing, do the thing that they're gifted and called to do and love to do. And it invites people in to try something new without money being a factor. We just basically raise a lot of money and then put it back into the community to do healing events for folks to build community and take what they need from that.
I love that. I feel like for any Caribbean people that are listening, they're like, Susu, pasa pasa, yes, partner.
Pasa,
Yeah.
I mean, it is.
Yes,
But
the partner
is our time, right? Our currency is our time in this particular way. And so, you know, the practitioners are, you know, trading their time for me, and then the community is trading their time. And then I'm kind of the middleman, or Susu is the person in the middle, or the entity in the middle, just kind of creating. It's the house. Like everybody gets to come into the house together. So like you come into the house, you're gonna eat good, you're gonna have community, you're gonna laugh, you're gonna enjoy each other. And so Susu is that entity, it's that house that folks get to come into to figure out what works best for them.
Yeah. And I think what you're doing is so important, creating more accessibility really for people who either don't have access or who want to provide the service, but they also need to survive this capitalistic hellscape. You know, we all have to participate to the degree that we need to survive until something better comes. So I love this just kind of merging of providing more support in that space where people who need it, who might not be able to afford it, can come to the house and get what they need, and the people providing the service can also be supported in the work that they're called to do. So I think that's really special. Okay, so we're going to talk about more of this stuff. There's so many things around this. So you already spoke about like what led you to creating these things, because you recognized a lack, or you felt like you needed it as well. So that launched you into wanting to provide the support through the Susu House and the Axon group. And I think that's wonderful. But I often ask people about purpose. So I feel like identifying a need and identifying and creating this entity to serve this gap is one thing. But I'm often really curious about what calls people to their purpose. Like, how do you know? Like, what is the thing in your body? What is the thing in your spirit and in your mind that affirms you that this is your purpose? So in what way does the Axon group, does Susu House fuel your purpose as a person in this world?
I read a quote recently, and I'm gonna kind of butcher it, but the essence of it is your purpose is the thing that you do that lights you up, that also serves, that helps people, right? That serves the world. And these things don't feel like work to me. They don't feel like the old adage, you know, do what you love, and then like if you get paid for it, like that's bonus, or that's extra, like in a non-capitalist way. But these things don't feel like work. They feel like a culmination of the experiences that I've had throughout my life, the wisdom that I have gained, the mistakes that I have made, the trauma that I have been through. These things feel like that was the training ground. That was the training ground for this. This is why I went through that. This is why I experienced that situation. This is why I made that horrible mistake, to learn X so I could be here. So it could be, so it wouldn't be wasted. And so it doesn't feel like work. It feels like confirmation of the life that I have lived so far.
Yeah.
And that's how I know it's a part of my purpose. It feels exciting. It feels, at the heart of it, it feels effortless. The execution and those pieces take energy and take work and can be stressful. But at the heart of the idea, the purity of the idea, the motivation behind the idea of these things feel effortless. And they actually give me life. Like when I see a Black woman have like an aha moment in a session, or I see, you know, someone sitting like at a sound bath because they've never done something like that before, and they're like, I just see tears coming down their face, and they're like, I don't even know what this is, but I needed that. They may not ever go do that again, but in that moment, they got to feel loved on. They got to feel seen. They got to feel cared for. And I'm like, that's it. That's it. And every single time something like that happens, and it's like, yeah, that's the work.
Yeah.
Like for a lot of us, it's like, I am a healer at the heart of all of what I do. And I've had a lot of roles in a lot of industries. And I've gotten to a point where I realized the through line of all of that was helping people and helping people heal. And because in helping other people heal, it's helping me heal my own stuff as well.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't feel like work to me.
Yeah.
It really doesn't. It feels like second nature.
Yeah. I think that's a beautiful answer. For so many people who feel like just unsure about what to do, I often lean on something like that quote that you shared at the beginning, that like, think about what you would do for free just because it brings you joy and it makes you feel good and you're helping others and it lights you up. Like, that is likely the thing that will help to align you with your purpose, like if you're feeling lost or unsure. And I think your answer is just a beautiful thing that just supports that idea. Like, this is second nature for you. It feels good. And I love that answer.
And you don't always get paid for your purpose. And so also for some people, it's like, I don't want to get paid for it, because the moment money comes into it, then it feels like a burden and it taints it a little bit. And so for some folks, your purpose may not be something that pays you. For others, it is. But either way, knowing what that thing is that like lights you up and fills you up, kind of feels like your North Star, is good to learn. And it took me a very long time to get there. I learned it by learning all the things I do not enjoy.
Yeah.
It wasn't one. I was 5 and was like, I want to be a healer. I was like, no, I want to be a pharmacist when I was 5.
Yeah.
And so I've gone through like so many iterations of roles and responsibilities and things where it was right for me in that season, but it was not my
Oh, yeah.
It was the role I was supposed to experience in that season, but it was not my purpose, but it was getting me closer and closer to my purpose.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Kind of like The Alchemist.
Yes, which I'm currently rereading because I read it many years ago. I'm someone, when I read, I highlight things that stand out to me. So it's very interesting to me now to be rereading it and like looking at my old highlights. Like, does this still resonate? Am I highlighting new things because I'm in a different season and the messages are landing differently for me? I love that. And just leaning into, like you said, like sometimes your purpose ain't always gonna pay you. Like, there's this culture now about monetizing every single thing, even things that are like, what you feel passionate about. And for some people, it does work out to do both. And for some folks, it doesn't. But really leaning into that thing that lights you up and brings you joy, like that will help to bring you to that purpose. And going through phases and seasons and stages that also help to bring you closer too, because some of these roles, they may be tough, but they help us to weed out what we do and what we don't want, what we do and what we don't need. So,
and if you are in a job where you're like, this is not my purpose, but it pays bills in a way that allows me to lean into my purpose, that's super. So I think also expanding this very prescriptive idea of like what it looks like to be happy or live a particular type of life.
Yeah. I feel like you've touched on this in many ways, like just identifying what you wanted to create in the world, leaning into what feels good to you. But I feel like there are always these moments and instances and events that kind of like catapult us into charting our own paths and becoming entrepreneurs and solopreneurs. What was that moment or that feeling for you where you just kind of knew, like, I need to do this thing. Like, I need to take it seriously. I need to pursue this. What was that moment for you?
I'm laughing because I don't think it was one moment.
Okay.
A series of events. It was a series of events where it's like, if you want to tell the girl one more time, like I wasn't catching it. I think it was after like, like people say like death by 1,000 cuts. It was kind of like realizations by 1,000 WTFs. I was like, what in the and then I had to I was like, okay, what are all these different things telling me?
Yeah.
And even then it wasn't something I was sure of. There wasn't a aha, oh my gosh, I need to be an entrepreneur and do this on my own. That was not it. Like I was not I'm about to be an entrepreneur, but no, it was none of that. It was, I can't do these things anymore like this. I'm gonna just start doing this instead. So I run out of options playing the game the way that I was told to play it. And I didn't know what else to do. And so I just started doing this other thing and then realized, oh, that's what it's called. Okay, cool. Great. That's what.
Yeah.
But it wasn't, I stumbled into it. It wasn't some amazing epiphany declaration. It was that. It was just like, there has to be something else. I can't work in this space this way. I can't work with these particular constraints. I can't work with these philosophies being the thing that people often work and live by. And I'm going to be honest with my former employers. I'm pretty sure that didn't make me a great employee, because I was constantly like, wait, what? No, I don't like that. Wait, what? Doing that. So if any of y'all are watching and someone has passed it to you, I am aware now in my 2020 hindsight wisdom, it probably didn't make me that great of an employee, because there was constant like, why are we doing this like this? Like, why doesn't make sense? It's like, well, if so much stuff doesn't make sense, then you go do it. Okay, I guess I'll go do it.
Yeah.
And so there really wasn't a
aha. Yeah.
No, it was a series of continuous, I know what I don't want. I know what I don't like. I know what's not working. And if I'm going to stay in these very specific restrictive spaces, I have to play by those rules. Like, you can't get mad at the rules and then stay in the space that's perpetuating the rules. Like, if you don't either conform to it or do something else. Because at that point, you're like, now you're just being disruptive for no reason. And so I'm like, all right, well, let me just leave and go do something else then. Yeah. And that's kind of how that happened. And it was a slow roll. Like, I slowly rolled into doing my own thing, and then picked it up. And, what Axon started out as, it no longer looks like that. And then being okay with the evolution of what my company looks like, being okay with the evolution of what Susu looks like and what it offers. And not having to have it all figured out. And the recovering perfectionist in me does not like that at all. No part of me enjoys that. Yeah. That piece of the journey. It's part of the journey. So yeah, there wasn't one thing.
Yeah. I love that, the analogies you shared, but also the language of stumbling into it, because sometimes there, like you said, there isn't an epiphany. Like, sometimes you just learn along the way, and sometimes you're tripping and stumbling and falling into it, but eventually you figure it out, and you
learn
or you learn how to fall better.
I'm stumbling. I'm still tripping, but I'm like, I know I'm a fall. It's like, I know I can't wear these heels, but I know I got 8 steps before I fall again. Before, I didn't know I had 8 good steps. Now I know I got 8 good steps before I fall again, and I know how to fall now. I'm not gonna fall for it. I'm gonna fall to the side. So I just mess up my elbow, and I'll mess up my whole face. That's what this is. I'm just learning how to fall better. And that's all I got. I'm just learning how to fall better at this point.
I know. I literally just had an image in my head of when I was younger trying to wear heels that I had no business wearing, and I really could walk in them. Every step I was like every step I was stumbling, and my ankle was just kind of like going like this. But I held my head high, made it to my destination, and I took them joints off.
Look. No, and I know there's supposed to be this, I think oftentimes we look to have people be experts so then they can tell us what to do and tell us how to respond to a thing. And I'm like, I'm sorry, most of us don't know what we're doing either. It's much more honest and normalizing the y'all, I'm still falling. Like, I felt 2 days ago, I was like, oh, that was a bad idea. Okay, noted. Noted for next time. And it's a series of just learning how to fall.
Yeah, and navigating hardships, because no path is easy, but this one, especially when you're trying to figure stuff out, it can be really tough. So thank you for that. I would like to talk a little bit more about the recovering perfectionist because you've mentioned it a few times, and I know that is an aspect of your work as well. So it sounds super self-explanatory, but folks who might not understand, can you break it down? What and who is the recovering perfectionist?
I am she. He is I. We are her.
Yeah.
I realized a few years ago, after, most major transitions in your life, you kind of start to do an evaluation of everything in your life. And one of the things that came up was how much of a perfectionist I really was. And I had the epiphany and called a homegirl to be like, oh, girl, I realize I am a perfectionist. And I, silence on the phone, and I'm like, she's taking it in too, because that was yep, that was good. And then she's still silent on the phone. I'm like, hello?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, she must really be feeling this. Like, she's processing it like I processed it. And I'm like, girl, you heard me? She's like, yeah. Oh, wait, what? That was not the response.
It was that kind of silence. Okay.
Hold on. Read that wrong. What? Girl, I thought you knew. That's what you mean. This is new. She said, it's new to you. I really thought you knew you were a perfectionist. I did not. What I thought I was coming to you with new information. Come to find out, I'm the last to know. So then I start calling more and more friends, and they're all like, girl, are you being like, are we playing a game? Like, what's that? How do you not know? I thought that. And so one, my epiphany and revelation was not that deep because everybody else knew but me. So that hurt a little, but really it started this process of really leaning into, well, how did I get here? Like, and what does this mean? And like, I know what, sometimes people use perfection. It's like, oh, well, what's your biggest weakness? I'm a perfectionist. I was like, actually, that's a thing.
Yeah.
And I really started to lean into what that meant for me. And I came to the realization, specifically with melanated people, that perfectionism is a coping mechanism. It is a trauma response because of all the generational trauma we have experiences. It's not just I just want to be the best because I'm type A and I have to. No, this is actually about safety. Like us being perfectionists and us using perfectionism as a coping mechanism is actually about our safety. If I can anticipate everything, if I can cross every T, if I can dot every I, and if I can know everything that's happening before it happens, I won't be blindsided. I won't be caught off guard. I won't be harmed.
Yeah.
And so I really started to unpack what that actually meant, which is why I started calling myself a recovering perfectionist, because I think it is something that is going to take a lifetime to unpack and undo for myself. And it also, as a recovering perfectionist, gives me grace. Like if I'm in recovery, there are going to be days where I'm like, ooh, I was a little more perfection, a little less recovery today. And so I started doing work around that. It started when I would talk to a lot of my clients and just talk to other Black women. It's like, oh yeah, I'm a perfectionist. Oh, I'm recovering from that. And it just became such a real, it just really started to highlight how, oh, this isn't just my issue. This is something out in the world and we just don't have words for it yet. Yeah. And people really hadn't connected trauma to perfection. Yeah. Like being perfectionist because of our trauma. And so I just really started to lean into that and started teaching workshops around it. I'm currently working on a book talking about it through the lens where we center melanated women, specifically Black women. Oftentimes self-help books center whiteness and we have to contort ourselves into ways to make the language make sense to us. And so I want to start with us as the center. And so, this book coming out hopefully in 2025 around that particular thing and how to care for ourselves and how to do that. So right now there's workshops and just, talks and conversations and meetings and stuff like that, just to really unpack why we use this as a coping mechanism, the different types of perfectionists that people may show up as, because it's not all type A personalities, right? Like people who don't have type personalities still engage in perfectionism. People who are procrastinators, that is a sign of perfectionism, right? You're like, well, if it's not perfect and I can't get it just right, I'm just gonna right. So all of these things kind of live in the realm of perfectionism that we don't realize are actually, a part of that coping style. And so just bringing that to light, and with most things, normalizing it in a way where people just don't feel like there's something wrong with them. Like there's nothing. Yeah. Right. Like a lot of times clients come to me and I'm like, let's start with, you're not broken. You are not broken. And so you do not need to be fixed. Let's start there. Like, and you already have everything you need in you to heal. And now you bring in all these resources to help support that. But please know the work that we are doing is not because you were broken and you need to be fixed. It is because you have survived certain traumas, and now those survival tactics may not be needed anymore, and we need to figure out what to replace it with. Perfectionism has served us, and because it's, it creates positive results, we think it's a cheat code. When actuality, it is, something that's eroding the most authentic version of ourselves.
Yeah, I love that. And that's just such a beautiful explanation. And it gives people an opportunity to really, if they feel like they identify with that term and that title, to really think about how perfectionism has showed up and served them, whether that's because of trauma or certain environments or disadvantages or different things they've had to navigate in life that formulated their personality that way, and how to kind of step out of that and step into your body and inner knowing about how to like navigate it. I saw an article once where they were trying to make the case for leaning away from that term, but when you actually read the article, they're talking about a lot of the same things. It's about how we've come to identify this way because of certain disadvantages in life or certain environments or certain things that have made us hard and like become like this. And instead of leaning into hopelessness and trying to become this flawless person, like embrace this aspect of yourself and like learn how to work around it. And I'm just kind of like, well, I understand what you're saying, but at the same time, part of breaking away and doing better is, you know, some aspect of healing, some aspect of recovery, some aspect of looking at things differently. So I think, you know, your explanation is beautiful, and I cannot wait for the book to come out. I will be reading it. I'll be adding it to my library.
Me either. You know what a recovering perfectionist I want to do? Write a book about all the ways they've been a perfectionist and then share it with the world.
With the world.
They messed up.
Yeah.
It's not, the more I write, the more I'm like, oh, this was not a good idea. This feels self-sabotaging. But yeah, to that article you were speaking about, it's the, I also think people with different experiences get to use words differently.
Yep.
I think it's easy to say like, oh, it makes you feel hopeless if you're a recovering perfectionist. I'm like, yeah, if you've always operated from a space of hope and opportunity and access and privilege, if you've never operated from those spaces, it's the saying you're a recovering perfectionist gives you permission to be human.
Yeah.
It gives you permission to take time to figure it out. It gives you permission to get over a breakup and then 3 years later hear a song by, you know, or hear a song by, I would say Brian McKnight. Bless his heart, child. That's enough for everybody.
He can't get
like hear a love song from the 90s. I'll just say that. From the 90s, 2000s. And all of a sudden you're crying, right?
Yeah. Yep.
I thought I was done with this. I thought calling yourself a recovering perfectionist gives you permission to be like, yeah, that particular season of that thing, I did heal through. And this new emotion I'm feeling is triggering something on a new level. Right? Shout out to all my elderly millennials. Super Mario Brothers. Like, yeah, you healed level 3, but now you're on level 8. And level 8, these same things are coming up, and that's okay. And so I think saying you can't, you also just saying you shouldn't use a word anymore. It's like, who are you? How dare you? Because you don't know who that word or what that phrase, how that resonates with people. And so just the privilege of saying, we have to throw this away. We can't use this anymore already speaks to your privilege around the thing.
Yeah.
But when I say it, when I say recovering perfectionist, I am inviting people to give themselves the permission to be human, messy.
And that's so important. That's so important, especially being in a world that tells you have to act a certain way and be a certain way. Like, I'm in an era of just showing up as myself, like my authentic self, my messy self, my sometimes wrong self. Like, listen, I'm a person. I keep seeing this language around, and it's certain pages that I follow that really explore just beef and things like that, but just giving yourself grace, because depending on what you believe in, we're all just doing life for the first time. Like, it doesn't matter how old we get. In the grand scheme of the universe, we're all babies. We're just babies. And we're here for the first time experiencing life. So I think about that a lot when I'm trying to give myself grace when I make mistakes, or when I'm trying to give other people in my life grace for maybe something affecting me in a way that wasn't intended, that we're all just doing life for the first time. We're all figuring it out together. So I love the idea of just embracing your fullness, flaws, mistakes, and all, and just being more human, because that's what we are at the end of the day.
Like, why didn't I know how to do that? Because you didn't.
Yeah.
Just be.
Yeah.
And that is hard. And I say that with the I have to tell myself that quite often. Like,
Mm-hmm.
because so sit with whatever you need to sit with around that Aseanté, and now figure out how you're going to manage. Because so many of us are human, most of the time people aren't doing something against you. They're doing it for themselves. Like, people are for themselves. They're not against you.
Yep.
And that's a really hard thing to sit with, right? Like, they're not trying to come for you. They just trying to help themselves. And then, and in them helping themselves, a ripple effect may harm you. And the consequences of it and the impact of it, not minimize it, but it's not always someone's out to get you. Sometimes they are, but it is not always that when especially when it's people that you care about.
Yeah. Most of the time when it's them, it's not. Yeah.
Right. But the people like, let me put that caveat out there. The people that love and actually care for you, when they do something that's hurtful or harming or disturbing or frustrating or deeply disappointing, they're not doing it to harm you. They are doing something in support of themselves.
Yeah.
And the ripple of the effect of that is harming you. The impact still gets to be the impact, and it's not necessarily intentional.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I think that's excellent. Nothing to add there. Yeah, just sitting with that for a moment. Okay, so we've mentioned the Retiring Superwoman series. Like, we've mentioned it. We haven't gone in depth about it. So please, can you talk to us and tell the audience more about what is the Retiring Superwoman? Like, what is the series that you've launched? Can you talk to us a little bit more about it?
Retiring Superwoman came up because I'm tired. Because I was trying to do all these things in 2023, and 2023 kicked my butt. Like, it was really rude. Like, it was really, 2023 was rude. I'm like, if you didn't want to be here, why did you show up? Like, you could have just quietly quit and not brought me your drama 2023. I love you.
Yeah.
Why are you coming for me? And I ended up not practicing any of the things I preached to my clients, which was like accountability piece. And I realized just how tired I was and how over it I was. And this was a new level of like, so what does your authentic self look like?
Yeah.
And so Retiring Superwoman came to be because I was in a session with somebody or a workshop or a panel or something. And we were talking, maybe it was the glass cliff. I think it may have been something with the female quotient. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But we were talking about like our labor and what that means. And specifically for Black and Brown women. And it was just our value, because of slavery, our value was literally connected to our labor and our output and activity. Like, that's the only reason we were valuable in society's eyes is what we put out, what we were able to do, what we were able to accomplish. And I know things have shifted over time, but have they? There's
well, like slavery, has it ended? No.
Podcast part 2. We will begin racial analysis of the new Jim Crow, the new corporate Miami. We'll get into those.
Yes.
But it hadn't, because then we'd internalized it, right?
Yeah.
So it was I'm the strong friend. I got to handle it. I got to take care of it. I'm the one that people call on. And I'm the one that blah, blah. And on some level, it turned us into a martyr. And I can speak for myself. I realized it had turned me into an interesting martyr victim. I started playing in that cycle and that dynamic. And then I realized I enjoyed it. Like, I liked being the martyr, because then I could feel like, oh, look at what's happening to me. Look at how people are. I'm like, well, but you agreed to do some of these things that you're now being mad about. You agreed to participate in X. You didn't set a better boundary here. And sometimes you don't know the boundary you should set until you have to set it. And sometimes these boundaries are much harder, especially in the families. Like, 100% of the family dynamics. And so it really started to get me. It allowed me to start really unpacking, wait, my value really is in my labor, and that in conjunction with the recovering perfectionist piece. Like, if I put stuff out, then I was enough. Like, it all became, it was very external, and it wasn't about the fact that I could just do this. That made me, the fact that I am present, the fact that I am here, the fact that I can breathe, that made me valuable. But that also isn't something, that messaging isn't expressed or acknowledged in society, right? It's about what you can do, what you can bring to the table. And so
what you can produce.
And so Retiring Superwoman really became like a cultural movement where we prioritize the well-being of others. Like we explore how we prioritize the well-being of others and how we can set better boundaries for ourselves.
Yeah.
Our value could no longer come from our labor or our sacrifice or our resilience or our exhaustion. And I really kind of like declared war against the word resilience. Like I actually despise that word because it is used as a badge of honor. Like, oh, you're so resilient. How about we get to a point where I actually don't have to get knocked down and get back up and then that be celebrated? How about you just don't knock me down?
Yeah.
How about don't even bring resilience into the conversation? Because resilience means I am able to withstand a hardship. How about we take out the hardship and start celebrating the fact that I can take a punch?
Because you're so strong and you're so resilient.
I mean, how about no? So Retiring is a campaign similar, and it's under the Susu House, where we're exploring like one where we have started to internalize where our value is all about our production and external things, where we're also playing into that role, where we're refusing to take the cape off ourselves, like where we're adding, we're perpetuating this thing that we say we want to be differently or we want to be different. And then what we can start doing to change that. And it's not major life overhauls, because I hate when people are like, all you have to do is just start loving on yourself more. It's just more self-love and deep breathing. Ma'am, if I knew how to do these things consistently, I wouldn't be in the position that I'm in right now.
Facts.
Don't just say, oh, you have to. Anytime someone says, all you have to do is, nope, shut up. I'm not talking to you. I'm not talking to you. That's all I had to do. I've done it. Yeah. And so Retiring Superwoman is being very honest around, you may be in an enmeshed family dynamic where you can't just start saying no to everything because something may not get done. Someone may not get the care that they need. And so you can't just up and be like, I quit, I'm done with it. Or you may have a family and children where you still have to care for them. Or you may be in a certain dynamic or situation professionally or in friendships where I can't just be like, new boundaries for me, new boundary alert. I'm not doing this like that. That may not be what actually works for you in this particular season, but you can build up to that. You can actually start asking questions now and getting curious about how showing up in these roles is still serving you, because we don't do anything that doesn't serve us, be it healthy or unhealthy. So let's just first start becoming aware around like, why does this identity mean so much to you? Why are you holding on to it? Let's start unpacking that. And then let's start figuring out how you can start seeing the value in just you being in this world. And then let's start doing some activities around that so that muscle can get built up. And then maybe let's start identifying just one area, not a whole life overhaul, but one area where you start practicing a better boundary for yourself.
Yeah.
Build that muscle up. And then it builds and it builds and it builds. But understanding that this has been ingrained in us for centuries. We're not going to, in one workshop, in one training, in one retreat, in one book, change this superwoman mentality. And so again, it's the retiring, it's the recovering, it's the ing of it. Like I'm intentionally using this, words matter to me. I'm intentionally using the ing in these words to understand that it is a process to help to give people permission to take their time through this. And in some seasons, they'd be like, I don't want to work on being a retiring superwoman. I don't have the capacity for it. But the campaign, a little bit back to the campaign, we partner with local Black-owned businesses and give people, melanated women, an opportunity to come in and receive something or a discount on something at no cost to them, to remind them like you don't have to do anything to receive something kind. You don't have to do anything to receive a gift. You don't have to do anything to be loved on. And so one of the places that we went was Brooklyn Tea in New York. Shout out to University. Shout out to Ali Wright, one of my Hampton alum, brothers in the world.
Yeah.
He's a co-founder of Brooklyn Tea. And so we had one evening from 5 to 7. If you came in, you got $10 off whatever thing you purchased. No questions asked. If you were a melanated woman, you $10 off, no matter what it is.
Yeah.
If you want to know more about Retiring Superwoman, great. If you just wanted to get the free thing and be out, you get to do that as well. But it's a space for people to just be poured into with no strings attached.
Yeah.
And so we did this with a few different businesses in the area, and are looking to expand that to other cities where we can just come in and do, Retiring Superwoman events where you literally just get to come in and get loved on and get something free that helps to calm your nervous system. Because at the end of the day, it's a very big piece of it, right? Like figuring out how, as retiring superwomen, how do we start calming our nervous system? How do we start engaging our different senses in a way where we're not always upregulated? We're not always on alert. We're not always on the ready. We're not always staying ready so we don't have to get ready. I hate that phrase because I'm like, basically, we just saying we always activated and you shouldn't be.
Right.
And so we pick organizations and we pick businesses that can tap into one of your five senses. And so offering a gift to you to tap into one of your five senses. And again, at no cost to you, because you should not have to pay to explore some of these things.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I love that. And a couple of things. I love how that's one feeding into this larger conversation around the fact that so many of our like third spaces are disappearing. Like so many people are staying home or they're going to work, but the third space where they connect with people, where they practice community care or self-care is just like disappearing. So even in doing this work, you're recreating those spaces. But I also firmly believe that as much as trauma can be generational, so can healing and so can joy. And I love the tools that so many of us are employing now to experience now, to live in our bodies now, to pass on to nieces and nephews and children. And it just makes me hopeful, especially during a time where I don't have a lot of hope because the world is crazy about what the future might hold, like what a new generation or generations of healing will look like down the line. So I love this idea of giving us permission to set aside or acknowledge, but also give ourselves a break from the things that we've carried either in our own lives or that are passed down to us that we didn't ask for. And charting a new course. So I love that.
I got goosebumps when you said healing is generational. Joy is generational. Like when we finish this, I'm going to probably go write something about that. I will absolutely credit you with it. But that just gave me so much joy. Because we always talk about like, the comms in both of us, like the communication back both of us. It's like talk about the problem, talk about the solution. And it's about trauma's generational. It's our generational trauma. We're breaking generational curses.
Yeah.
I was like, what if we just talk about building generational healing? That just thank you for that.
Yeah.
Like, and not to discount generational curses, but to be like, let's talk about generational gifts.
Yeah. Yep.
Let's talk about generational legacies. And so that, healing is generational. Joy is generational. That, woo, girl, you're going to see that again.
Yeah.
You'll see that again, Aaliyah.
Okay. Gosh. Aseanté, this has been so good. I know we're almost at time, so I just want to wrap up with some last questions and then, have you share where the folks can find you. So I feel like you shared a lot already about what this path has taught you so far. But if there's just a lesson that comes to mind right now or advice that comes to mind right now, just given your experiences launching the Axon Group, launching Susu House, doing the Retiring Superwoman campaign, working on the Recovering Perfectionist work and writing a book, like what is something that kind of comes to you right now in terms of a lesson you've learned or advice you'd love to share to someone who wants to chart their own path as well?
Release knowing how it's going to work out. Release knowing how it's going to play out. I'm literally telling myself, like, that's not advice I'm giving to other people. So, like, this is for me.
Yes.
Especially in the last couple of months. Like, release the expectation of it looking a certain way. And just because it may not look the way you wanted or anticipated or planned for or desired, one, doesn't mean it wasn't successful.
Yes.
And two, doesn't mean that you're not doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing.
Yes. Yeah.
Because the things that are put in us, that are entrusted to us to be birthed into the world, like not everyone gets the same ideas. Not everyone gets the same epiphanies. And if you've been blessed to have one in any capacity, that means you're entrusted with it.
Yeah.
And so that also means you're entrusted with it because it's there to teach you something as well. And so I'm doing all of these things and also understanding, because at one point I was like, I'm doing all these different things and how scattered do I look? I'm like, actually, no, there's a through line in all of these.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It took a long time for me to realize and see that. And the through line is connected to my own healing of me giving myself permission to be human, giving myself permission to pause, giving myself permission to make mistakes, giving myself permission to fail, giving myself permission to not know how it's going to play out, giving myself permission to pivot.
Yes.
This route isn't going the way I thought it would. I can pivot. And that's still all of these entities and platforms are a constant teacher and reminder of that for me. And so I would want to offer that to other folks as well.
I really do hope that you're listening to your own advice in this moment.
So anyone listening, if you ever see this, I give you permission now to, hold me accountable. You're like, maybe that's on the podcast, you're not doing it. I'm like, you're right. You're right. Yeah. Don't know you, but thank you for sharing. You're right.
Yeah. Yeah. I think what you spoke to just also speaks to giving ourselves grace and allowing change to happen. Yeah. In our, what is it? Parable of the Sower. And Octavia Butler, and the main character is talking about, just reevaluating their relationship with God and recognizing that God has changed. That stays with me all the time. Because if there's one thing that's going to happen in life, is things are going to change.
Perfectionists don't like change.
Yeah.
You know what healing requires? Change.
And being able to evolve and grow with that despite the discomfort, in spite of the discomfort. Okay, Lord. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. It happens in English. Enjoy it. You don't. Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard, but it's necessary.
It's, we don't like it either.
Some days it's a rage room.
Sometimes it's Annie up. Sometimes it's not. Look.
Yeah.
Up there. Let me stop there.
Yeah. All right, Aseanté. So let me just ask you, what is bringing you joy in this season right now? I know a lot of things are going on, but what is one thing that's giving you just joy right now, comfort?
In this exact moment, it's my dog, because he keeps trying to jump up on the couch.
Bishop!
He keeps trying to make an appearance right now. Podcast. He's not groomed. He literally keeps like...
Oh, okay. It's up to you. Okay, if you're watching on video, you get to see little Bishop. Oh my God, he's the cutest.
Aww. See,
just wanted to give his mommy some kisses.
Yeah. It's bringing a lot of joy to me right now. The other thing, the sun.
Yes.
Like I find myself going outside and just standing in the sun.
Yes.
And just standing in the sun and having those moments of really deep gratitude. Like, again, like I said, I'm from the South. I'm very, very, very prayers that my grandma and great grandmas and like the aunties and deaconess would pray. That I'm just grateful that I woke up in my right mind. I'm grateful that my lips. I'm grateful that I was like, why would you pray? Why would you be thankful for that? Like, that's a given. No, it's not. No, it's
yeah.
So what's bringing me joy is remembering those very basic privileges that I have. The ability to breathe air without fear, the ability to eat without concern or worry, the ability to actually be in my right mind, to be able to walk outside and stand in the sun and not worry about my safety. That does bring me joy, deep gratitude and deep joy.
Yeah, I love that. I spoke on a recent episode about just doing some grounding work, like going in the grass barefoot, just releasing whatever I was feeling to the earth and just letting the sun hit me and taking it in slowly wherever I felt the warmth and being very overly present with my body. And so I love that. Aseanté, thank you so much. This has been such a beautiful conversation. I appreciate you so much. Can you let the folks know where to find you, where to support your work?
Gosh, of the 3 websites, of the 3 organizations.
List them all.
List them all, baby.
Yes. Yeah.
So you have the Axon. I know this will go in your link information. Yep. So you have the Axon group if you want to do some one-on-one coaching work. Honestly, you know what? How people can support me, because I'm gonna just name the thing. Yeah. Also, it can be messy in the ask. See, I'm practicing what I preach right now. I had no official pitch.
Do it.
The way I would love for people to support is to donate to the Susu House. Yes. And you can actually go to susuhouse.org and donate, because all of the money that people donate literally goes right back out into the community to do healing events, to do healing retreats, to do healing workshops, to give scholarships to people if they want to go to other practitioner healing retreats and workshops and they can't afford it. The scholarships for folks to be able to go do those types of things. Like, if you've ever had a woman, if you've ever had a superwoman in your life that loved on you, nurtured you, cared for you, got you through, go donate. Yeah. Go donate as a way of, first, go tell them thank you. First, foremost, go tell that person thank you. Like, as soon as this podcast ends, go tell them thank you. And then secondly, go donate to the Susu House. And that will allow us to do more healing events. It'll allow me to do more things in the community. It allows us to support more practitioners. It'll allow us to support more melanated women. It allows us to do more retiring superwoman events. Go donate. $2, $2,000, $2 million. I will take $2 million. And if you know somebody who's willing to, a corporation, organization, y'all trying to do some healing equity work, you work at a company that's trying to do some real healing equity work that wants to do a scholarship donation, send us the money. Send it to us.
Yes.
I'm gonna ask for all the things now. I want that. If you have access to anyone who's on a news talk show, y'all know Tamron, y'all know Sherry, y'all know anybody who want to pick this up so we can make this national and help more people, hit them up. Yep. Send it to them. Yeah. Get them involved. Help me. Help. That's my ask. That is please use your network to help me heal melanated women.
Yes, I love that. And I will make sure I link to Susu House in the show notes and ask folks to support your work and to make a donation. And I speak on the show all the time about fostering community and how we can show up for each other. So if you're listening and you feel called to support in this way, please do. That's the end of our episode. Thank you, Aseanté.
Feels like we just had lunch. Like, these are what our lunch sound like.
A working lunch.
Or working, in quotes.
Working lunch. This is beautiful. You're just a breath of fresh air and so wise. And even with all the things that you carry, the fact that you can inspire others is just a testament to the woman you are. So I appreciate you. I appreciate this time with you. And this has been great. I hope that anyone listening, that you also feel inspired. And thank you.
Can I just say, like, Leah, you're absolutely amazing. I'm big on giving people their flowers in real time.
Thank you.
You are. You are one of the smartest people that I know. You are so creative and so caring and so courageous. You are truly charting your own path. And from the woman that I met to the woman that I'm seeing now, that courage and that power is palpable. And you are doing this podcast, and it is a healing modality. It is a healing platform for both yourself and other people. And just, I don't think people give enough credit to someone having an idea and then bring it to fruition. Like, that takes so much work and so much audacity and so much tenacity and so much courage. And you have that in spades. And I am so thankful for you. And I am so grateful for you. And I am so blessed to consider you a friend and to be able to witness you on this journey. And I think people listening to your podcast would feel the same way. Like, you are a trailblazer, change-making powerhouse, dope-ass woman. And thank you for allowing us to experience your brilliance.
Thank you. I wasn't expecting to cry. No. I'm going to stop the recording. Okay. Now that I've composed myself. Aseanté, I just want to say thank you for coming on the show. I loved having you on as a guest. Thank you for being an incredible friend, an incredible mentor and leader, and such a special person in my life. To everyone listening, I hope that you enjoyed this episode. If it spoke to you, if it resonated with you, please share it with someone in your network. Please consider Aseanté's call to action. The Susu House is doing such incredible work in the community, and it's such an important resource and important tool. And in many cases, a lot of the funding, a lot of the grants, and all kinds of things are so gatekept and hard for women-owned businesses to access, Black women-owned businesses to access, marginalized communities, period. And it would be world-changing to really get Susu House the funding that it deserves. If you feel inspired, if you have it within your resources to do so, please consider a donation. If that's not in your wheelhouse, but maybe, 6 degrees of separation, you have someone in your network who knows someone else, let's get Susu House the recognition it deserves. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you enjoyed this episode, you can send us a text message using the link in the show notes. You can send in a voice note with your thoughts. Have an opportunity to have your voice heard on the podcast. I would love that. You can email the show, email me at podcast@theprolifichub.com to share any thoughts or feedback you have. And let's keep the conversation going. I will catch you all back here next week. Thanks so much for tuning in. Hey friend, if you made it this far, you're a rock star. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode. The Prolific Hub podcast is hosted and produced by me, Aaliyah Cheyenne. If this episode resonated with you, please leave a 5-star rating and positive written review. Reviews help tremendously in the podcasting world, so I appreciate you taking the time to leave one. Be sure to share this episode with a friend and follow the show wherever you get your podcasts. Follow the Prolific Hub pod on your favorite social media platforms to stay connected. Consider supporting the show with a monthly subscription or send us your thoughts on this episode via text or voice note. Find all of the juicy details in the show notes below. Catch you on the next episode.